knowledge, but this is a basic trick or actually geometry. But we need to know about the idea of vectors and how velocity can be split into x and y's. Yep, I'll get that later. Anyways, if this was our projectile with the v, we can componentize it by doing the x direction because we have x-axis like this, y-axis like this, just because we humans decided to organize it that way. So we have a split like this, split like this. There's two ways to memorize it. Actually, there's many ways to memorize it. Actually, you can memorize it by different ways. But the general accepted rule is SOHCAHTOA, which is I don't like it. I memorize by the cursive S, cursive T, cursive C method, which is basically saying 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and then 2. So what do I do with that? I make it into sine and then do this with the 2 over 1, and then I multiply each side by 1, but later on, but cosine theta equal 2 over 1. Next thing I do is plug in the variables, so this is going to be Vy, Vx, that's a component, and now you just have to say sine of theta equals Vy divided by V, which means this equals V sine of theta. And that goes for the same thing over here, which is a cosine of Vx divided by V, theta equal, and then you just do V cosine theta equal Vx. So that's how I memorize it. And the same goes for tan, but we don't really need that here, so we're just going to skip over it. Why we need that is because we decided arbitrarily that x direction is this way, y direction is that way, which means that if we have a vector that goes over here, like acceleration goes downwards, that has how it affected. Well, we'll talk about more of that later. But there's some other things we have to discuss here, so we'll just delete this and come back. The next point is this. Basically, this is the projectile motion. It gets thrown off and goes down over here. That's the basic idea. And then this is over here, the V. I'm not answering this question. I'm just showing you what will happen in certain situations. So let's look at this way. So X over here, Y over here, and then it goes like this. Now, because it's not labeled properly, you have to actually do this. Or you could get a different color and show that they're component in the y direction to x direction. The reason it's falling is because acceleration is changing the velocity. It's only changing to the y direction because there's no air resistance going this way. So, because there's no air resistance, if you go over here, the point where it's top the y-axis should be nothing. So this is actually v. This is vx, and this is going to be vy equals 0. When it's over here, the angle should be the same, but in this direction. And the component should be the same, therefore it's just negative velocity. Just going in this direction over here, which in total means it's going to be a positive x direction, but negative y direction, giving a negative y direction final, v final. So that's like when it's like reversed, and then if it's over here, it's just the bottom. You have to figure that out later. But that's the general sense of this whole idea. Another thing to really quickly note is that over here is v, right? This is v, but this v over here in this instance would be equal to vx, just over here. And this over here would be the component vector, which is going to be like this. Would also be vx, just continuously. The vx doesn't change because there's no air resistance. Changing the direction or doing the acceleration, the x direction in physics 1, which is, and over here, Vy would equal a negative Vy initial over here, if that point was ever discovered. There's a few things to know.